What's good? It's Woog. We are continuing our 2023 Grammy Award coverage. We are going category by category. We are predicting winners. We're picking our winners, or who we feel is the most deserving to win the award. We're giving a little Grammy history, and we'll continue to do so leading up to the date of the ceremony. In this video, we are tackling Best Alternative Music Album. And this is actually one of my favorite categories, and that's because it spans a multitude of genres and subgenres. Yes, it says Best Alternative Music Album, but this includes like folk rock, alternative rock, dream pop, experimental or electronic rock, think Daft Punk, blues rock, think Black Keys or Alabama Shakes, indie rock, indie pop. There's just a wide variety of artists and styles that are included in this category. Post-punk, punk rock, pop punk, yeah, it goes on. And this category actually started in 1991, and the first recipient of this award was Sinead O'Connor. The next recipient in 1992 was REM with Out of Time. In 93, Tom Waits won. In 94, U2 won with Zeropa. And in 95, Green Day won with Dookie, beating out Tori Amos, Crash Test Dummies, Sarah McLachlan, and 9 Inch Nails' Downward Spiral. One of the funnest categories in my book, again, because of the wide variety of music genres and subgenres. The most wins in this category is a three-way tie, each with 3 wins. Those 3 artists are Beck, Radiohead, and the White Stripes. They are all tied with 3 wins, and then there are 3 more artists that have 2 wins in this category: Coldplay, Vampire Weekend, and St. Vincent, who was the very last recipient of this award last year with her album Daddy's Home. So now she joins the company of Vampire Weekend, who had won their second a couple years prior with Father of the Bride and then Coldplay. The most nominations in this category, and this part is a bit controversial, is Bjork. She is a 9-time nominee. She's nominated again this year with Fossora, and she has yet to win this award. So she's been nominated more than any other artist in this category and has not yet won the award. I've done multiple videos about how ridiculous that is. So basically, ever since probably her post album, almost every album that she comes out with is nominated for Best Alternative Music Album, but again, she is yet to be granted the win by the Recording Academy. There are 2 artists tied for second place in nominations with 8 nominations. Those artists are Radiohead and Beck. So with this latest nomination for Bjork, she separated herself from Radiohead and Beck with her 9th nomination. But yeah, Radiohead and Beck both have 8 nominations. Arcade Fire, who are also nominated this year, have been nominated 6 times. Next, with 5 nominations, is Tori Amos with 4 nominations. We've got Death Cab for Cutie, PJ Harvey, and Yeah Yeah Yeahs, who are also nominated this year. And then you have several artists that have been nominated 3 times, including Bon Iver, Fiona Apple, who oddly enough has only 1 win. I feel like she should have at least won 2, but Fiona Apple's been nominated 3 times. My Morning Jacket, Tame Impala, The Smashing Pumpkins, The White Stripes. Think about that. The White Stripes have been nominated 3 times, and they've won it 3 times. And then again, you've got Bjork, who's been nominated 9 times and has yet to win. So let's get into this year's nominees. Now, I had mentioned that this is my favorite category. The caveat to that is sometimes you have some of the most uninspired picks out of the plethora of alternative, if you will, albums that were released on any given year. Usually you don't get the best albums that end up being nominated. You get usually the biggest names, or even sometimes you'll get a lot more of the storied brands, like the Arcade Fires in this case. Not to say that their latest album, We, wasn't good. I thought that it might have been their 4th or 5th best album, but it wasn't as good as The Suburbs. It wasn't as good as Funeral or Neon Bible. Those are what I consider to be the 3 best Arcade Fire albums, but I felt like it was a lazy pick, and you get that in a lot of different categories. Like the best rock album, you often get like Metallica, or if Neil Young or you name it, like a classic rock artist will release an album, they often get nominated in Best Rock Album. And when you do that, like in this case, Yeah Yeah Yeahs are nominated along with Bjork, Wet Leg, and Big Thief. But like the Yeah Yeah Yeahs pick, look, I love the Fever to Tell album. I love the It's Blitz album. Yeah Yeah Yeahs are a fantastic band, but anybody who like reviewed this album or longtime fans of Yeah Yeah Yeahs, they'll be the first to tell you that this wasn't like a very inspired album. Yes, they do have a couple of highlights, like I like the song that they have with Perfume Genius, but you know, to be honest, I thought that Karen O's solo album produced by Danger Mouse a few years ago was better than this latest Yeah Yeah Yeahs album. So I looked at this as being a lazy pick, and when that happens, you kind of deprive other very good artists and albums from being nominated here, including like Always. I thought Always had a fantastic album. I thought Kevin Morby's This Is a Photograph could have been nominated here. I was actually a little surprised not to see The Smile. That was the Greenwood and Tom York from Radiohead collaboration. That was a very good album. Orville Peck with Bronco. I thought that he could have been nominated here. He's a fantastic new country artist with like a Elvis Presley meets Johnny Cash voice. Just listen to the opening song on Bronco, Daytona Sand. Yeah, Orville Peck could have been nominated here. I mean, quite frankly, Kid Cudi had a very good alternative album called Intergalactic this past year. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, like they had 5 albums that they released in 2022. 3 of those made my top 40 best albums of the year. I think that one of those albums could have been nominated here. Again, I already mentioned Always. I thought Kate LeBon had a really good kind of folk rock album. I thought that the Waxahachie, or should I say Katie Crutchfield of Waxahachie and Jess Williamson collab album, they go by Planes on this album. But it was like a very good kind of indie country, if you will, or folk country type of album. That could have been nominated here. Wise Blood's latest album, Stella Donnelly, Niller for Yanya with Painless. That was a really good album. That could have been nominated here. Sudan Archives. Check out Sudan Archives, Natural Brown Prom Queen. That could have been nominated here. So yeah, I don't feel like we were getting the best alternative music albums nominated in this case, which is often the case year after year. But let's get into the nominees. Again, I mentioned Arcade Fire nominated with We, Big Thief with Dragon New Warm Mountain, I Believe in You, Bjork with Fossora, Wet Leg with their debut, Wet Leg, and Yeah Yeah Yeahs with Cool It Down. You know, Wet Leg, they have really kind of hit the scene hard. I thought that there were some, you could argue that there were some better punk-ish albums released over the past year. Some people would point to Soul Glow. I really like this kind of upstart band, Romero. Viagra Boys had a very good one this year, as did Dry Cleaning. So all of these, you know, post-punk or punk-ish artists and albums, I thought were a little better than Wet Leg, including Yard Act. That was another band making their debut this year, as was Wet Leg. But Wet Leg, for whatever reason, they were the one who started gaining a lot of momentum. I started hearing their songs on, you know, either commercial, TV show. So I feel like they have really risen in visibility this year, Wet Leg. So I'm not surprised to see their name based on how their debut album was received. But again, Arcade Fire with We and Yeah Yeah Yeahs Cool It Down. Those are the 2 picks that I wish you could flip those for 2 other alternative albums, whether it's Sudan Archives or Always or one of King Gizzard's albums or something. Now Bjork, as I mentioned a couple times, she is nominated for the 9th time with Fossora. I don't think this is like a top 3 or 4 Bjork album. All of her albums are pretty theme-based. She usually experiments with a different palette of instrumentation per album, or sometimes in a completely different style. Like if you start with her early albums, Debut, and then Post, and then Homogenic, and then you compare those with her latest albums like Utopia or in this case Fossora, or you go to the middle of her career with Vespertine or Volta, you get a wide variety of how these albums sound. And she is such a versatile vocalist. She's just an iconic, all-around iconic artist. Now, who do I think is the most deserving to win this award? Look, Big Thief in my best albums of 2022, Big Thief, they were teetering on #1. They ended up hitting #2. I had The Weeknd's Dawn FM as my #1 album of 2022, but Big Thief, I feel like you could have made an argument for that being the album of the year. This is probably their best album. Like, I like their UFOF album. Quite frankly, I like the Two Hands album even more than UFOF, even though that song Cattails, track 2 from UFOF, might be my favorite Big Thief song till this day. But Big Thief might have outdone themselves with this Dragon New Warm Mountain, I Believe in You album. Fantastic folk rock. And then they have some that are more fun and upbeat and songs that have more levity. Then they have certain songs that are a little bit more somber or serene or a little melancholy, nostalgic. Like, they really run the gamut. And if you listen to some of their lyrics in this, it sounds like the album was inspired by some ayahuasca ceremony or, you know, the toad's venom, if you will. This sounds like it was partially hallucinogenic, but in some of those experiences, you can also gain some actual deep insights. And it sounds like that might have been the wave that Big Thief was on with this Dragon New Warm Mountain, I Believe in You album. I feel like that is the best album out of these 5 nominees. Now, I would like to see them win it, but I would not be mad if Bjork wins it this year. If they finally give Bjork it would almost be like a Lifetime Achievement Award in giving Bjork the win with Fossora for Best Alternative Music Album. I wouldn't be mad at that. Now, I don't really want to see Arcade Fire, Wet Leg, or Yeah Yeah Yeahs win this award. I don't think that those albums are the most deserving. And with Wet Leg, it's, you know, you get a lot of artists like Fiona Apple, who's had classics with When the Pawn and Extraordinary Machine and The Idler Wheel and what was her debut? Tidal, that's the one with Criminal. Fiona Apple just won her first award in this category in 2021 with Fetch the Bolt Cutters, her 5th album. So when you've got Fiona Apple waiting 5 albums to win one, I don't feel bad about Wet Leg essentially waiting their turn. Look, this was a good debut album, but I don't think that they should win it over Bjork or Big Thief this year. I don't think they're going to give it to Arcade Fire because of Win Butler's recent allegations. He's in a lot of hot water, and I think it's actually hurting Arcade Fire's popularity with their fan base. I've got a friend who goes to all Arcade Fire concerts when they tour and they come to LA, and he notably said there were a lot more empty seats this time around than there were around the time Arcade Fire dropped like Reflector or the album after that. So I don't think that they're going to be awarded with the win here. Now, Yeah Yeah Yeahs, they have been nominated 4 times and they don't have a win in this category yet. I wouldn't have a big problem with them finally winning in this category. I just don't think Cool It Down is the album that deserves it. Like, when I was listening to this for the first and then second and third time, I didn't find the album to be particularly interesting. It's not nearly as good as Fever to Tell or It's Blitz, in my opinion. Again, I would love to see the band live. I like the band's work a lot. I just don't think that this particular album deserves the win in this category this year. So I want to see Big Thief win it, but I feel like the Recording Academy has to know, yo, this is the 9th time Bjork's been nominated and she has not yet won this award. I think they're going to do right by Bjork. I think that Bjork is finally going to get the win with Fossora. So again, I think that the best album out of these 5 is Big Thieves. So that's who I would like to see win. But I wouldn't be mad if Bjork wins, and I actually think that Bjork's gonna win it this year with Fossora. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this category. If you look at the category's history, you have some of the most interesting indie-ish artists nominated throughout the years. So yeah, I love this category. Again, I don't love all 5 of these nominations, but I do like to see Big Thief here this year, and I want them to win, but I think that it's going to Bjork this year. And again, I wouldn't be mad at that. So let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love music like I do. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.